Before I get into the content of this video, I feel like there's some history that needs to be addressed here. So, back in February 2023, FromSoft announced that there was going to be DLC for Elden Ring. There was no title for it, and there was nothing really much about it, just that there was going to be an expansion pass that was going to be worked on. And that was one of the big talks of 2023, but yet sadly, there was no news about it. No press conference, no release dates, nothing. People were in the dark about Elden Ring's DLC. However, on February 21st, 2024, the Shadow of the Erdtree trailer was dropped and they finally gave us a release date. And also, Miyazaki, the director of Elden Ring, actually gave an interview with IGN talking about what features they'll have in the game. Now, people are really excited for it. But then, when Phil did his podcast on the same day, he went into it just talking about how he's so hyped for it, but yet didn't go into major detail about it. And now with the history out the way, let's get into the context of what happened.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for that? Never in a million zillion years. The DLC is $39.99. It's the most expensive DLC FromSoft has ever sold. Okay? So, that being said, with that price tag on it, right? You have to believe it's going to be incredibly long. If the main game was $70 and was 80 to 100 hours long, obviously you would expect that a DLC that's $40 is going to probably be around 40 hours long. Now, you could be wrong. Maybe they're going to rip everybody off. Maybe because they took 2 years to make it and they've decided to beat it, to blow it up as much as they have, hype it up this much. Maybe they're just going to rip everybody off and overcharge. I don't know.
I just love the fact that as soon as Phil saw it was $40, he wanted to bring up the excuse that FromSoft is going to rip everybody off with this. How are they going to rip it off, Phil? If they're working on it and they're going to take a lot of time and effort to making the perfect DLC for Elden Ring, they're going to do whatever it takes to make sure it looks good, plays good, and has a lot of replayability. But there's a lot of things that is wrong with this whole opinion that he had. First off, Elden Ring was never 70. It was mostly $60 max. However, who you ask on it, maybe you're going to get the digital deluxe edition of it. Maybe that was 70. But who's to say about that really? Most likely, from what I've seen, it was mostly 60.
But I'll tell you this. If you buy that sucker and you beat it in 10 hours, people are going to be pissed as shit. Like, are you out of your fucking minds?
I'm sorry. I thought you wanted things to be shorter instead of longer.
You charge just $40 for 10 hours of content, right? And that's the thing, like typical DLCs for FromSoft games clock in around 10 hours long, right? Take a look at the expansions for Dark Souls 2 or Dark Souls 3. They're not that lengthy. They're good, but they're not that lengthy. Typically, they've gone for around 20 bucks. So for this one to be 40, that's a big ask.
Well, Phil, you failed to realize that the reason why the DLC was $20 was because it was all separate. But you failed to understand that each DLC was like $15, $10 each. But if they had a season pass, it was mostly going to go around $20, $30. But again, you're failing to see the picture with that.
Okay, now also, they're selling a special edition of the game that includes the original Elden Ring, also packaged with the DLC, and that's going to sell for $79.99. Okay?
Yeah, that actually seems like a really good deal. For those that never really got into Elden Ring or never purchased it, this is actually a good bundle. That way, it comes with the original game and a DLC. So, essentially, it's kind of a profit because you're spending $40 for the main game and then $40 for the DLC. Again, it's very good depending on who you ask here. How is this an issue?
That's $80 for the complete package of Elden Ring. But the weird part about that is you can buy Elden Ring for like 10 bucks.
No, you cannot. No, you cannot with that, Phil. But please continue with this stupidity.
$5. You can find discs of it everywhere online for cheap. You know what I mean? So essentially, they're overinflating the value of the original game back to $40 just because you need the original game to access the DLC. And I don't know if I agree with that.
Wait, why do you not agree with that, Phil? You need the base game in order to play the DLCs. That's always been a standard when it comes to gaming. Like, for God's sakes, how is it that you could pull up, like, any game that has DLC, but you want to play just a DLC? Like, granted, there are some cases where they're standalone, like Doom Eternal with the Ancient Ones, but the whole thing with Phil saying that, oh, this game was $5-10 cheap, when that has never been the case with that one. The lowest I've ever seen Elden Ring go for was about $42. That's the cheapest it's ever been.
I do feel like that's kind of a dirty trick. You know, if you're someone who played the original, good for you. You could just easily you go right back to the spot to access the DLC for free. But what about people who maybe now I'm jumping on? So now I got to pay $80 to play the full game? What?
Yeah, you could play it for $80, Phil, if you don't own the game. You just said it. If you already own the game and you want to play the DLC with it later, then it's a really good deal. But you're looking at it going, that's a dirty trick. That's a dirty trick. God damn it, Phil. You play dirty tricks on people.
Why? The original game is supposed to be like $5-10, and then if I bought the DLC, so this should be $35. You know what I'm saying?
Phil, you are really stupid when it comes to this. Again, it has never been that cheap, but keep deluding yourself into believing you know how marketing works.
So what they're doing, they are monstrously inflating the value. What? Where did this come from?
I'm actually asking that same fucking question.
In fact, I'm just curious. How much is it now? How do I go to the page for it?
I'm gonna say this. Shout out to Hay for actually including the Steam version of Elden Ring. First of all, proving Phil wrong here by saying that it was $70 when it's actually $60, and then showing off the Elden Ring DLC edition, or the Shadow of the Entry, or Erdtree. Sorry, I can't pronounce these names right. And also the Deluxe edition, which comes with additional DLC with it. Phil is just so fucking stupid. Again, shout out to Hate for this amazing video. I'll link this down below.
I don't know how you see it on PS5, darn. Because I wanted to look at information, is it? No.
Well, Phil, you can always just go to the fucking dots, go to view product. It's not hard to figure out. God damn it, Phil, you fucking dumbass.
I was curious how much they're selling it for on PSN right now, right?
Which would have been the same thing, $60.
I don't think I can find it, honestly. PlayStation Store. Because I already own it, so it's not going to show me how much you have to pay for it, I don't think.
Well, no shit, Phil. If you already own it, it's not going to tell you how much you have to pay for it. It's automatically there. It's like, hey, download, play a game. That's the only thing it's going to show with it. If you really want to do this, Phil, go on the desktop version of it and just look it up on the PSN Store desktop version. That way, don't sign in, and it'll show you how much you could spend on it. But Phil's not that smart into actually looking ahead of things.
I can tell you this, they already put them on here. It's already here.
Well, no shit, Phil. It's called the pre-order.
Shadow of the Erdtree Edition is $79.99, and they have a Shadow of the Erdtree Deluxe Edition, which also includes a digital art book and OST. That's it. It's just a digital art book and OST, and it's fucking $20 more.
Yeah, that's only for the people that actually care about Elden Ring. The people that are really invested with the lore and how things were created. Some people actually like the soundtracks for these games, Phil. That's the reason why it's there.
The trailer came out like 5 hours ago. It's already fucking here.
Yeah, because as soon as the trailer came out, that's the perfect opportunity to be like, hey, pre-orders are now available. And it's going to be available on June 21st.
So anyway, yeah, so there you have it. I don't know how much they're maybe they're going to charge $40 again. Maybe they reinflated the cost of Elden Ring, because I know it wasn't $40. Last time I checked, that thing was going for real cheap, and now it sounds like they're reinflating the value of the game again for no good reason besides they want extra money because the DLC's coming out.
Even though they really never did that, Phil. And Hate Army actually does a really good job showing off the price history of this game. Going from a consistent, then drops down to like maybe $25 or maybe $40, and then goes right back up. I mean, Phil, for God's sakes, do fucking research before you actually spout these as facts.
There are collector's editions as well.
And the rest of it is just him talking about the collector's editions, which he doesn't really care for. But keep this in mind, the only thing that he said about it is that you could get Elden Ring for $5 to $10, which you can't do. Elden Ring was $70 when it was only $60. And he wants to talk about how it's 80 to 100 hours, when in reality it's 56 hours to, at max, 130, maybe 150, depending on how you play. But this was all on Wednesday, the day that the trailer dropped. But continuing onward, we're going to go on to Friday's podcast, which was on the 23rd. So let's just see how that turned out in comparison to this.
All right. So we got so much to talk about, really. We've got a ton to talk about. How about this? How about we start at the beginning, meaning going back to Wednesday, because I want to address something that apparently happened on my day off that I wasn't aware of, but happens all the time.
So you want to talk about something that happened before your day off, and now all of a sudden it's during your day off. Please, do continue.
As you know, there's a ton of people on the internet who just basically are out to always make me look bad no matter what it is I say and do.
Phil, that is you that's doing that. It's not us. We're not putting words into your mouth. We're not creating deepfake AI saying things out of context. That is entirely you, Phil.
I'm constantly misrepresented.
Phil, the only person that can misrepresent themselves is themselves. So someone like you're the one that's constantly misrepresenting yourself, but yet every single time you want to put the blame onto someone else, saying the reason why you're being misrepresented.
I'm constantly misreferenced, and I'm constantly held in a negative light.
Phil, again, this is all on you. You're the one that's misreferencing things, misinforming your own audience, and you're doing this all to yourself. Again, this is not us doing it. This is you.
Even though there's really no valid reason for it. Now, if there's a valid reason for it, that's one thing. But we've got a case here where literally, apparently, there's a group of people who are really angry with me.
Well, then again, though, Phil, who isn't angry with you? I mean, for God's sakes, besides your mom and dad, they should have been angry with you since you were born.
And I don't know why, because literally what they're angry at me for didn't happen.
What exactly were they angry about that didn't happen? I mean, I got a list of things right here. Like, this magical notebook that y'all can't see. I have it right there. And the things that you've done. So please, do tell what exactly you didn't do. Tell us in your own out of context words.
Let's recap and go back to Wednesday's show. All right. On this very show, the Level 1 podcast back on Wednesday, I had a big segment about Elden Ring's DLC, The Shadow of the Erd Tree. At that moment when I record the podcast, which is starting around 11 a.m., okay, 11 a.m. Pacific time, all right, I talked about everything that was known at the time about this DLC. The price, the features, because we had seen some of those features shown in the release trailer, and speculation. At that point, 11 a.m. Pacific time, the trailer for this DLC had only been present on the internet for 4 hours. It had released around 7 a.m.
So you're going to say that just because the trailer came out and it was already out, that automatically people are wrong for making speculation about it, even though you didn't say anything about the features at all. Instead, all that it was mostly about was how it was going to be overpriced, that people were going to be ripped off, and you kept saying a lot of shit about how the game's going to be cheap, like $5-10 cheap on its own. But then you went on to say about a lot of other things that, again, they don't really make sense. But in the mind of Darkside Phil, anything makes sense to him.
There was no other information. Everything was speculation. Now, what ended up happening was, over the course of the day, more information was released because Miyazaki, the guy behind Elden Ring and other FromSoft games, was interviewed.
So throughout the entirety of the day, even though it wasn't even close to an hour, they already said, okay, here's some updates. And yet you said that's throughout the entirety of the day. I had no idea that 1 fucking hour is the entirety of the day.
And when he was interviewed, he gave a ton of additional information about the DLC that was all positive stuff that, number one, is exactly what Elden Ring fans are looking for, and number two, actually answered a lot of the questions that we posed together when we were talking about this DLC back on Wednesday.
No, Phil, you weren't posting any questions. None of your chat members were posting questions about what this DLC will entail. Instead, it was just you talking out of your ass, like always. Most of your deadheads sitting there going, yeah, you're right, Phil. And the other ones were like, dude, what the fuck are you even talking about? You weren't going on social media. You weren't posting questions to Miyazaki about how the Elden Ring DLC is going to be, like what features are going to be added. You did none of this. Instead, the majority of other people that saw the trailer and had their own speculations did that for you. So again, you're taking credit for someone else's doing.
So let's recap.
What are we gonna recap? The recap of the recap?
Originally, when we were talking about the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, right, we were talking about some of the things that we actually saw in it, which included a new boss, some new gameplay elements, etc., etc.
So, what most DLCs tend to do? I mean, what's new here?
Who is Mesmer the Impaler, right? The fact that you can access the DLC, where when you find Miquella, and Miquella's body is in that rotted cocoon down in the Mohg's Blood Palace and stuff like that. So basically, we were discussing all of that in detail, lots of hype. And by the way, if you put it into perspective, the entire segment was hype. My entire border for Wednesday was Elden Ring. In fact, if I could just bring it up quickly, let me find it. Well, now of course I can't find it because I want to do it fast. Now I can't find it. Oh, here it is. This was my border.
Okay, so a few things with this. Number one, having that Elden Ring border doesn't really make you a fan of anything. Phil, you kept saying over and over and over that you're a fan of the Souls series or a fan of FromSoft games, but we've seen you play FromSoft games, Phil. You hate playing them. You don't enjoy these games like you're proclaiming that you do. All right, number two, hype. I didn't see any fucking hype that was around this. Instead, you made a stupid fucking joke about how the Elden Ringers need to go form their hands into a sphere and la-di-da-di-da, trying to play into the quote-unquote meme. When in reality, you keep saying over and over that you shouldn't believe the hype. That if there's hype for a game out there, it doesn't matter if it's the main game or the DLC, you should not believe the hype. But what are you doing here, Phil? You're quote-unquote hyping something when in reality, that's something that's bad in the industry. How is it that if you hype it, it's good, but if anyone else hypes it, it's bad?
On Wednesday. Now, if you don't think that I'm hyped for this DLC and I'm positive about it, why would I make my whole border characters from FromSoft games?
Again, it doesn't really fucking matter, Phil. You can proclaim that you're a big fan of something, but when we see you play it, you're not a big fan of it. Also, the only reason why you're playing Elden Ring, you were trying to hope for the DLC, but you kept getting pissed off that it's not coming out in 2023. So you just dropped Elden Ring altogether, the second run that nobody asked for, to move on to other games. Again, though, Phil, coming from the guy that claims that he's hype about it, does the second run, completely abandons the second run.
With Elden Ring at the top. If you're not even aware, which you might not be, Elden Ring was my runner-up for Game of the Year.
Yeah, it was runner-up, but you gave it to God of War Ragnarok and said that anyone that disagrees with it was wrong.
When it came out. It was a very close battle that year for what game was going to win Game of the Year for me.
No, there was no close battle. The only reason why you picked God of War Ragnarok over Elden Ring was because a lot of other people were giving Elden Ring Game of the Year, and you didn't want to be like anyone else. You had to play contrarian that year. You do this every single time to any game out there.
I love Elden Ring.
No, you fucking don't.
I'm pumped. I even said in the podcast on Wednesday, hey, I'm actually going to be playing Elden Ring again in May because we've had a playthrough that we were doing of it last year. It was my second ever run.
Which, again, you abandoned.
It was a magic-based run.
Which was through the help of your audience.
We had gotten all the way up to the Corrupted Dragon, which is that optional boss, the Lich Dragon or whatever. We had beaten him, but we hadn't gone ahead past that. Basically, we froze after beating the capital city and then beating that Lich Dragon. We didn't continue on because there's other optional stuff to do.
Yeah, you didn't want to do all of that because there were other games coming out, like Street Fighter 6 and Diablo 4. There were many other games that came out. Even The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. You dropped all the other games just to play those ones. But yet, all of a sudden, when they weren't helping you in your chat, you were getting angry with it. Not at the game, well, also at the game. But you were getting mad at your audience for not holding your hand like you said that they were going to. So, again, Phil, you just want to sit there saying that, I really enjoy Elden Ring. Why aren't y'all helping me?
Didn't get to the Blood Palace or anything like that yet. But now that we know, excuse me, that the DLC is coming out June 21st, hey, now we have opportunity to say, let's maybe pick up the Elden Ring second run in May.
This is just a way for you to say, hey guys, I really like Elden Ring. Let me pretend that I like Elden Ring by going back to my second run that I completely forgot all about until just now when the DLC was coming out.
Let's finish it up or at least get close to the end and get to the Blood Palace. Let's beat Mohg with this new magic build and then let's get set up for the DLC. And the other thing that we actually did, I praised Elden Ring saying, this is a good game because you could respec whenever you want. So let's say we start this DLC and the magic build's feeling overpowered, or maybe immediately you find a new weapon and you want to try to use it, you could just go back and respec and use it.
No, knowing you, Phil, you're going to keep using the magic run because it's OP, it's overpowered, and that your audience is going to sit there helping you all the way. Unless the people that were there during the Elden Ring second run already took off and they're not coming back. Then you're fucked.
That's a great thing about this game, right? So I'm under the impression that most of the things I said about the Elden Ring DLC on Wednesday were very, very positive, right?
Nope, saying that FromSoft is going to rip people off at $40, that they're going to give you 10 hours experience and then laugh at your face that you bought it. And that you went on and on and on about how the special edition or the definitive edition, whatever you want to call it, the one that comes with the DLC, if you didn't buy the game already, it's a good deal, but you kept saying that it was a ripoff for those that actually played it. Phil, do you not understand that some people actually own this game, so they're going to spend $40 on a DLC, but for those that haven't played the game, it's actually a good deal for them. That way, they can spend $40 on the game and $40 on the DLC. Again, it's a good deal, but you don't understand good deals at all. Instead, you want to think that people are getting ripped off and say that you can get the game at $5, $10, which in reality, you fucking can't.
Right? The one thing
Please stop.
that was a question mark for me was the price. It's a $40 DLC. That's the most expensive ever expansion for a FromSoft game, or I should say a Elden Ring, a Soulsborne style game. And in previous iterations, if you looked at the price of DLCs that they had released, I think the most expensive one had been like 20. Don't quote me on that because I might be wrong, but
right here, I have all the DLCs from all the FromSoft games, excluding Elden Ring. And Sekiro never really had a DLC to begin with. So, of all the DLCs right here, the cheapest was $10. But $25 was for the Season Pass. But if you got the Season Pass, you saved $5. But you kept saying over and over that the most expensive was $20, but that was only in the case of Bloodborne, the Old Hunters.
and usually the DLCs would be around 10 to 15 hours long.
Not really. Most of the time, they'll go up to at least 8 hours.
So I'm thinking, man, if this DLC is $40, you've got to think it's probably going to be pretty lengthy. Like if the original game was $70, well, if it was 60, I can't remember. But
Yeah, now you can't remember, even though the majority of the time was 70. You kept saying over and over that it was 70 until other people pointed out that it was 60. So you're listening to what other people are saying about this, even though the other people are correct and you're wrong.
and the original game was, 80 to 100 hours long, then you would think that this DLC would probably minimum be 40 hours long, right? Maybe even longer than that, right? But again, my question was, I don't know. I'm curious, how long this DLC will be. Hopefully it's not a ripoff. Hopefully it's not, because we realize there's so much hype for this DLC that we're going to charge whatever we want, right?
No, you kept saying that FromSoft will rip off the player base, right? Anyone that buys this game by giving a 10-hour experience for $40. You keep doing this over and over and over, where you want to say that, I didn't say that, instead I said this, which is completely different than what you already said. Again, retconning your own self by creating more of a fake history, and that happened 2 days ago. Now 3.
Now, I know for a fact that Elden Ring has been very inexpensive to buy. I just don't think it's been the digital version, but I know that Elden Ring's been inexpensive to buy because I've seen copies of it listed online for very cheap, like 10 or 20 bucks. Okay?
No, you said $5 to $10. Now you're upping the price saying it's 20, even though it has never gone for that price at all. Most of the time that I've seen it, it's either $30 or $40 at its minimum. And this is on sale.
But what happens is these digital marketplaces overinflate the price of the games and never drop them. So during the actual show, I attempted to go into the store and see what's the price, and I couldn't figure it out. And people revealed, it's still $40. I'm like, wow, that's kind of a lot 2 years later to be charging $40 for this game. All right. But
even though it's not $40, Phil. Granted, if it was on sale, it would be $40, but you can go on the Steam page and you can see that it's $60. You can go on any page on the desktop and you can see that it's $60. You don't want to put the time or the effort into actually researching it yourself. Instead, you're going to look at what someone tells you and you believe it at face value without doing the research your fucking self.
But actually, if you look online, you can get copies used for like 10, 20 bucks. I've seen it actually like clearance on sale online for like 10, 20 bucks new.
Okay, Phil, show us where you find these deals where it's $10, $20 for that price for Elden Ring. Show us. Did you look it up on Amazon? Did you look it up on Target, Walmart? No, of course not. It's take me at my word, I've seen it.
But it depends on the time of year and where you're buying it from, okay? But anyway, so this is what we talked about on the show on Wednesday. Very, very positive. I'm excited for this DLC. It looks great to me, and I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm already making plans to return to Elden Ring in May because of it. So that's where we left it, right?
Yeah, that's where you quote unquote left it, but yet for some reason you want to say that people were misrepresenting you when it comes to this. I wonder why.
So, yesterday, as you know, I check comments that are coming in on my videos from time to time. I have to approve a bunch of them. And I start to notice a pattern. All of a sudden, I start seeing a bunch of really negative comments coming in on my podcast from yesterday. I'm like, what is going on?
Huh, could it be that you were spreading around misinformation about the Elden Ring DLC? Oh no, couldn't it be me?
Where are all these negative comments coming from? All right. And they're all around the same topic. Okay. You are misinformed about the Elden Ring DLC. Why are you spreading mass information about the Elden Ring DLC? What is this hot take that you have about the Elden Ring DLC? It's completely wrong. You're an old dinosaur who doesn't know what he's talking about, and you're just trying to create clickbait.
Okay, so the misinformation part, I can believe. But the last one that he said, I highly doubt. Due to the fact that he wants to say that, oh yeah, people are calling you a dinosaur, when no one does it. No one calls him that. The most I've ever seen people call him is a fucking boomer. At most. But never a dinosaur. That's a Philism.
What?
I hate when Phil does this stupid, like, not funny, didn't laugh type of face where he's like, what? People are saying I'm spreading our misinformation? No, but I'm dark side Phil. I never do that.
So I went back and I looked at the video. The title of the video is like huge gaming news, Elden Ring DLC. It doesn't say Elden Ring DLC sucks. Elden Ring DLC is a ripoff. You know, it doesn't say any of that. It's actually a very positive titling of the video.
I find it absolutely hilarious how he immediately wants to defend his own titling of the video by saying that it's not clickbait. But you kept saying it was like huge gaming news and it was the Elden Ring DLC. And most people, when they see anything like huge gaming news, that it's positive. But seeing how you reacted to it and you want to talk about how it's a ripoff for $40, then yeah, it could be considered as clickbait, depending on who you ask.
If you actually look at the description of the video, there's timestamps. It'll tell you directly where to start watching my segment about the Elden Ring DLC.
Alright, so I'm at the video where he's talking about the huge gaming news and how there's Elden Ring DLC, Battlefront, and more. The Level 1 podcast. When it shouldn't be called that. So he said that there's timestamps. Where are the timestamps? I don't see the timestamps. All I see is join DSP Gaming. Give me a PayPal donation and explore the podcast. But there's nothing. I don't see any timestamps. So Phil wants to sit there and say, oh yeah, there's timestamps to where I say it in the video. There isn't any. Where are the timestamps, Phil?
So there's really no excuse for someone to be misinformed about what's said in the podcast. It doesn't have a clickbait title.
Even though the majority of that segment was entirely clickbaity due to the fact that you said it was big gaming news about the Elden Ring DLC, when he went on and on and on about how you can get this game cheap for $10 or it's $70, and that people that are buying the game and they had never played Elden Ring before, it's a ripoff, even though it's not a ripoff. And they're not playing any dirty tricks and not putting the Jedi mind trick on you that we will rip you off.
That's erroneous or negative for the sake of getting people to click on it. And you can easily access that segment of the show by looking at the timestamp in the description.
Where are the timestamps, Phil?
And so I'm like, I'm really confused.
Well, then again, though, Phil, every single time you say something and go right back into it, you'll be so confused because the djinn is taking its toll and you forget everything, or it's for the sake of convenience.
So I continue to read the comments, and it's so ridiculous. It's like, so you're slamming the Elden Ring DLC for being $40, but how dare you slam a DLC that's 60 gigabytes in size, the size of the entirety of the map of Limgrave, DLC with 10 boss fights, 8 new weapons, blah, 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 and it keeps going on and on.
Again, though, Phil, you didn't even name these in your fucking podcast. Instead, you talked about everything else, but yet you didn't even mention what was being added to the DLC or to Elden Ring itself. Instead, you just went on and on and on about stupid shit that was completely stupid. But again, you want to sit there saying that you didn't spread around misinformation and that, oh, throughout the entirety of the day, that's when Miyazaki added in news about it and gave us more updates on it, even though it was in the span of an hour.
And all of the comments are kind of like saying this now. And I'm not saying one or two. There's like dozens of comments are coming in like this.
Dozens of comments, huh? Why don't you show us these comments? Oh, right, you delete them because they're too negative. They hurt my feelings.
And I'm thinking to myself, what happened? I'm like, I think I know what happened. Someone, of course, probably one of my idiotic haters, probably posted up an out of context clip or reference to my podcast. Basically, maybe taking the one segment where I was speculating and saying, man, I hope it's worth $40 because it could be a ripoff. Maybe they're going to just overcharge for it because you've been waiting for so long and they know there's so much hype.
And so it begins. Holy shit, that tasted good.
Now, that was one tiny moment of speculation amongst a giant segment of my podcast that was incredibly positive about this DLC. But how much do you want to bet that's the clip that was taken? And likely they went to, like, for example, what do you call it? They probably went to, like, a Reddit or something, right? Like a fan Reddit or something like that and posted it up there. So basically, these are people who are, like, adamantly looking to defend their game against people who slander it.
Oh my fucking god, Phil. Phil, they don't have to make clips about it when they could go straight into your podcast where you're saying all this shit. But no, you want to say that they took everything that you said out of context and made videos about it. Even though there's already a video out there that already has a good amount of viewership. And guess what? The video is actually really well done. But no, you just don't want to say anything like that, though. But you want to keep saying that it's my idiot trolls trying to spread it around to Reddit, and they're taking things I said out of context to defend their game.
Okay? Now, I'm not the biggest fanboy of Elden Ring.
Even though you said that you're a big fan of the FromSoft games or anything Soulsborne or anything Souls-like, you kept saying that over and over and over. But yeah, you saying that you're not a big fan of it, even though there's evidence of you saying that you like these games?
I was very fair to the game when it came out.
Oh, I was pretty fair to it when it came out, even though I said the game sucked. But remember, guys, I put it at my top 2 of the games of the year of 2022, but I gave it to God of War Ragnarok because everyone else is wrong.
I had a ton of very positive things to say about it when it came out. I mean, it was my most played game of the year. Yes, I put more hours into Elden Ring in 2022 than any other game that year.
I'm pressing X to doubt with that because God of War Ragnarok, you kept milking that game when everyone else was already fucking done with it.
Including multiplayer games, I still played Elden Ring more. Alright? It was my runner-up for Game of the Year. But I did have some criticisms of it. I think I have the right to fairly criticize the game, and I feel like I did fairly criticize it when it came out.
You didn't really fairly criticize it. Again, you want to say that everything that you say about the game is criticism, but yet you're providing no fucking reasons to why it should be criticized. You're not providing anything that's justifiable to your claims. Instead, it's always the same bullshit excuses about how the game sucks because X, Y, and Z, but yet people could tell you, Phil, you could just do X, Y, and Z with these, and you just get mad about it and you just block people. Oh god, that eye twitch is just coming back. As soon as he said that lie, eye twitch.
I really don't feel like I was overly unfair to it. I just thought that there was a lot of things that could have been improved. That's not the point of this video, so I don't need to list them here.
Even though you're saying that people are saying you were misrepresenting you and saying that you're spreading around misinformation, but now you're saying that this has no relevance to it. But then again, this is just like Phil, to bring up something that's completely fucking irrelevant just to be relevant.
You understand? You can watch my review of the game that I made in 2022 if you want to hear those.
Yeah, it was a terrible one. Glub, 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 cherry gin water.
But basically, to me, like, I'm like, so what really happened, right? And exactly, Agent Coop says you even started a second run. How could anyone say there's Elden Ring hate on this channel?
Again, though, Phil, you could do a game a second time, but people can actually see you playing it the second time, and they can see that you don't like this game. You're bitching and complaining that From Software did this, From Software did that. Oh, no, I did everything correct. The game is stupid. We've seen the fucking videos of it, Phil. But then again, you want to say, there's no hate here. This game fucking sucks.
But again, this is exactly the situation I live in. You guys got to understand, especially those of you who maybe are newer comers here, and you ask questions such as,
newer comers, even though you could just say newcomers or new to the channel, but newer comers. Okay, the gen's already taken effect on you.
why do so many people hate Darkside Phil?
Oh, there's a lot of reasons why people don't like Darkside Phil, but again, it's gonna take way too goddamn long, and I don't think the Bibble is long enough for this.
This is why. Because completely out of my power.
This is completely out of your power, even though the only thing you can do in your power is just ignore it.
Completely out of the realm of anything that I've done wrong or can control.
Even though you've done a lot of things wrong, and there's a lot of things you could have controlled, but you never did. Instead, if there is control, it's done for the wrong reasons.
People always misrepresent me.
Oh, no, Phil. You misrepresent yourself on an everyday fucking basis by saying one thing and then flip-flopping to say the other thing.
In the eyes of the public. And they'll say that I did things I didn't do. They'll say I said things I didn't say.
Even though we could go back to that part where you said certain things.
They'll take things out of context.
Even though we're not taking things out of context, Phil, but yet you're taking what we're saying out of context. You do it all the time. So it's projection.
Right? They'll take rage moments from me playing a night of fighting games where maybe twice I rage, and they'll say that was the whole stream.
No, there are times where you've raged a whole fucking lot. Even though you didn't have those moments where you're slamming your fucking hooves on the fucking fight pad, you do rage. But it's not to the point where it's like you're about to throw the controller across this fucking room. But you want to say that you don't rage, even though you're insulting the other player, insulting the developer of that game, and saying that, oh yeah, the netcode is bad, X, Y, and Z again, and yet you're saying that you don't do any of these things, but people can just pull up a random video that you've done of Street Fighter and can be immediately disproven.
Right? That's what they do. And so how do you combat that? When, sadly, people on the internet are so willing to become like this big defense force for the games that they're massive fans of, and they don't do any research. Because in reality, all these people that came to the video and watched it and attacked it in the comments, because the video now has like over 1,300 views. Just so you guys know, my podcast typically gets 300 to 500 views a day.
Huh, so you get 1,300 views and you're rejoicing that you get that, even though you have a lot of other podcast episodes where you get more than that. But the people that actually do research on you and they actually go into what you say and actually research to prove your ass wrong, oh, they do a lot more research than you do. But you want to keep sitting there going, oh yeah, the DLC is going to be 10 hours long for the other DLCs, but this one, oh, they're ripping you off. Oh, they're doing all this. I said the features when you barely even mentioned the features at all. You just talked about what the trailer showed.
That's it. If it's a more important day, maybe up to 1,000. This one obviously has big inflated views by the hundreds. So someone posted it somewhere and people came over to attack it negatively, right?
Even though they could just immediately go into this video to see what they're saying is true, though. Phil, what you fail to understand is that detractors actually give people a reason to check you out in a way. Because they could just say, hey, we made a video about it. You can go watch these videos to prove it, like, to see for yourself. And they do. And they're like, oh, God, you're right. He actually is a major asshole.
So, where did this come from, right? I hate to say it, people on the internet are far too leaning towards being so into defending things they like for no good reason.
Okay, so you're talking about fanboys. Something that fanboys tend to do. Even though people can look into your videos that are not detractors, but are fanboys, and they'll defend it. But you want to misconstrue and generalize saying that it's your idiot detractors making videos about you. Sure.
Alright? You don't need to defend Elden Ring. Everyone knows it's good. Right? I don't think everyone's going to sit here and say, wow, Elden Ring is terrible. Who's going to say that?
People that aren't big fans of the Souls-like games, Phil. There are people out there that don't really care for Elden Ring. Granted, I like Elden Ring, but I'm not going to say it's one of the best games ever. And people can say that's a hot take on my end. And you know what? I'll gladly allow it. Because people like a game. They're going to say, I really enjoy this game, but I don't enjoy this game. It's civility when it comes to discussion, which is something that you don't seem to understand. But when people are saying that you're misrepresenting and misinforming about the game, they know shit. They're going to call you out for the right fucking reasons.
It's objectively good. It may not be everyone's favorite game, but it's still objectively good.
Okay, you can say the same thing about Final Fantasy 16. I love how I gotta come back to this. Even though people can say that Final Fantasy 16 is objectively good to them. It's not going to like match the same resonance as what another person would say, saying that the game's not that great. But again, it's based around civility and the discussion, which is something you don't understand.
You don't need to go defend it, especially on a podcast like mine. So, you know, I don't get a ton of views. I'm not a popular guy. No one's really listening to my opinions as a revelation of something they didn't realize before. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't even make much sense to me that this would be a big thing.
What you say can hold weight. Since you are a public persona, a lolcow on the internet, what you have said can hold weight to certain people, depending on who you ask. But again, though, you not understanding all of this is just pure comedy gold within itself.
And I don't understand why people fall for it either. Because it's a trick, is what it is. It's, oh, you fell into the black hole of hating on Darkside Phil because Philman tricked you into thinking he said something he didn't do.
Even though they can, I don't know, go back to that podcast.
Because in truth, the things that, again, the comments people were leaving on the podcast don't even make sense. They're acting like I don't like Elden Ring. If you actually just watched the podcast, you would know I do.
Phil, I thought the comments were about you misinforming people about the game, that you weren't talking about the features. I thought that was the main case, not you hating Elden Ring. Again, you want to say one thing, but then you'll say something completely different the next. It's just pure comedy gold. Goddamn, I need to take another sip.
I say right in the podcast, I'm doing a second run, can't wait to get back into it, so many positives, excited to jump back in. How could you think I hate the game?
Well, you do hate the game, Phil. It doesn't matter how many runs you can do of a certain game, you still don't like anything from FromSoft. You will constantly sit there while you play the game and just mock them. Again, you could go back to the DSP throwback where you're mocking Miyazaki with a really shitty Japanese accent.
Or I'm misrepresenting the game in a negative light on purpose for clickbait views. What clickbait views did I get?
Big gaming news, Elden Ring DLC, and you thought you was going to say things are positive, but when people watch it, they say, oh, hey, this is just a dirty trick to buy the $80 one if you already own the game, even though you completely forgot the thing about people that don't own the game.
I don't even understand what they're talking about. But the thing that really kills me...
Oh my god, are you going to have a stroke about this?
Okay, is a lot of the things that people reference to say, oh, you were wrong, is information that wasn't publicly available when I did my podcast on Wednesday. Right now, it's 11:26 a.m. This podcast starts between 11:10 a.m. At 11:10 a.m. on Wednesday, the 21st of February, none of the information about this DLC that people are using to reference and say, oh, you're wrong, was available.
Phil, it was already available before your podcast was even a thing, before you went on talking about it. The information was already there, you dumbass, but you just didn't want to do any fucking research.
No one knew it was 60 gigabytes in size.
Even though they already said it was. Again, they already confirmed all of this way before the podcast began.
No one knew the map would be the size of Limgrave from the original game. No one knew there were 10 bosses. No one knew there were 8 new weapons. No one knew anything.
Again, Phil, you could have just waited and just looked it up yourself, do a little bit of research, but no, you just want to go in willy-nilly talking about the DLC and how it was $40 and it was going to be a ripoff because FromSoft can do that and blah, 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 blah. It's like, Phil, this is why people drink.
This came out in an interview with Miyazaki later in the day. I think it was IGN, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah, it was IGN, and guess what, Phil? There's a time where it was posted, and there was a time when it was updated. Within an hour.
It came out and then it's like, wow, this is all awesome, positive information about the DLC, and it literally answers all the questions that we had about it. So now I'm even more sold on this DLC. If you're telling me it's going to be a minimum of the size of Limgrave. Oh, by the way, this is what sells it for me. Miyazaki outright said in the interview, this has tons of legacy dungeons. The major focus of the DLC is legacy dungeons. Like, that's what they worked on. Now, what was my favorite part of Elden Ring? The legacy dungeons. I wasn't really having too much fun in the open world. I felt the open world after, maybe Limgrave and what's the name of the magical area? I've already forgotten. And of course, I did like the
I really like Elden Ring. What's that area after Limgrave?
The capital city. But after you get through those areas, right? I felt like it was just kind of too redone, especially that whole final third of the game in the frozen area at the Land of the Giants. I didn't like that at all, okay? My favorite part was going into a dungeon that felt like it was Dark Souls or Bloodborne. Those were my favorite parts. They were hand curated by the developers of the game to be interesting, challenging experiences. I loved those.
You loved them. Do you remember any of the legacy dungeons and what they were called, Phil? Do you remember them from the top of your head? No, you're just pulling out of your ass like, oh, they mentioned legacy dungeons, but I love the legacy dungeons. It reminds me of my 15-year legacy. I mean, it's such a good game.
Give me more legacy dungeons, give me less open world, and give me less of the very randomly generated boring dungeons, right? They're not randomly generated, but they're ones that are very repetitive and boring, the ones that look like the crypts or the caves or whatever. I didn't really like those. Give me the legacy dungeons. And
I just love the fact that while he's talking, he's just flailing his arms around. You could tell that he's holding on to his testicle ball, that little stress ball that he has, that you could just tell that he's just squeezing on it, going, I hope what I say is right. I'm going to squeeze on it. Ow, my hand. Carpal tunnel.
Miyazaki outright said there's a lot of these legacy dungeons in the DLC. You are preaching to the choir now, like that's exactly what I wanted. So now I'm even more pumped.
Yeah, you're more pumped, even though this information was already available to the public, and yet you didn't do any fucking research.
For the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, when it comes in June. Like, I feel like this is a feature of my year now. It went from being, okay, I'm interested, but I wonder what it's going to be, to, wow, now I'm actually really excited. Okay?
Are you excited for this, Phil? Because you think that if you do the DLC, people are going to come in swarms just to give you money? Just like every single hot new release that you want to do, people will come and just give you money. Is that what you're thinking? You thought that with Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. You thought that with Sea of Stars, Baldur's Gate 3. You thought that with Tekken 8. You were thinking about this with Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. But we all know the trend that happens with it, though. People give you money in the beginning, and then it dwindles off into nothing. Unless it's Baldur's Gate 3. The only reason why people are still giving you money for that is because if they don't give you money, you'll say the game sucks, and people are too gullible and stupid to actually buy it.
But again, why are people coming to my podcast telling me I'm misrepresenting the game, I'm hating on the game, this is a hot take for clickbait views, and leaving dozens of negative comments, voting the video down, and I'm like, what is happening?
Because of the way that you say things, Phil. You take a lot of things and you misinform people and misrepresent the game for it, but yet at the same time, though, you're doing this all to yourself, and you're sitting there going, I don't get why people don't like it. What did I do wrong? I did nothing wrong. It's playing the victim all over again.
You tell me. It's nonsense. All right? And at least I'm happy now that we could talk about it today and actually talk about more of the positives about the DLC.
Yeah, let's talk about these positives that I just figured out today, even though it was already up when I did the podcast on Wednesday.
Excited for it. But why does it have to be the result of a bunch of people coming and crapping all over me? Because you know what it is? Now there's another 500 to 1,000 people who hate me on the internet, right?
I love the fact that he has to audit how many people hate him. Oh, there's now another 5,000 people that hate me. It's like, Phil, you could just ignore this. You could. You said something and you were misinformed. You can move on from it. Just like how people yell at me for failing at basic fucking math with the Hydra saying that it was 6 instead of 4. Guess what? I laugh at myself for it because, yeah, I fucking suck at basic math. But do you see me sitting here making a fucking video or a podcast saying that why people say all these things about the Hydra? I don't understand. Why are people mean to me? Because you say it, you live and learn, and you move on. But you don't want to live and learn and move on. Instead, you just want to live, breathing in this case, and not even learning from it, blaming someone else, and you're wondering, why doesn't anyone like me? And you tell me while not moving forward. God damn it, Phil.
They outright think I'm a jerk because I crapped all over Elden Ring.
You did, Phil. Even though you'll say that it's your runner-up for Game of the Year 2022, you still shat on the game.
They didn't even bother to watch my podcast and see what I said. Someone told them I said it, linked it, and they just went right to the video and left a nasty comment.
Naked comment? You're not saying naked comment, but now you're like negative comment. But Phil, you could just learn from this. People actually go into your podcast and they go to where you said it and they can just watch it from there. But no, you want to make this whole conspiracy about how, oh, someone linked a hate video, a detractor video about me, and they made a video about me. And they shared it on the subreddits out there. It's like, God damn it, Phil, shut up.
What kind of a mentality is that? What kind of a person can you be to judge someone before you've even said what they've said? You didn't even bother to click play to see what was said in the podcast, because there's no way you could watch that segment and come out of the other side of that podcast thinking that I hate Elden Ring and I'm crapping all over it for clickbait.
Phil, here's a little thing about perspective. It's always going to be different from another person. People can go into it, you're dense, and just watch the part where you talk about Elden Ring, and they'd be like, yeah, Phil's right, and just clap all the way home. While people can actually just come on in, detractors can just look at what you said and be like, wow, he's a fucking idiot. And then people who aren't even detractors or your fans could come in and look at it from a neutral standpoint and make the judgment for themselves. And if they could see that, wow, this person's really misinformed, they can do whatever the fuck they want with it. They can either drop it, leave it alone, or make videos about it.
It was not even present in the video at all.
Even though it was present in the video.
Right? So anyway, I got it out of the way. Listen, I'm excited for the Elden Ring DLC. Really, I like all the additional information. 10 new bosses, that's a ton. 8 new weapons. I'm sure in those 8 weapons, there'll be 1 or 2 I want to try, so I might respec during the DLC and try them. That's awesome.
You really like it, huh? Then why are you looking at the camera all bug-eyed? You're looking at your corner demons, you're squeezing your little ball sack, and you're saying that I really like this game while you're being jittery and stuttery about it. Yeah, you want to try to lie to people about how you really enjoy it, but in reality, you're not enjoying it for the reasons that you're going to enjoy it. Instead, you're thinking in your head, my God, people can give me money for playing this. Oh my God, I can make money. And it's not going to work out the way you want to, Phil. In the last video that I made about Phil, I went over about the Dondoko Island stream and how that was a complete fucking failure and how he was coping with it. And how he wanted suggestions from his audience of how to bring Cat back on. So there is some updates with this, and it's not looking too good.
It was $70 at launch, and I said, there is no effing way I'm paying $70 for any kind of a Sackboy platformer. Essentially, it should have been Little Big Planet 4, but they never made a Little Big Planet 4. They just called it this instead because it was a different company that made this.
Yeah, Phil, you already answered your own question with that one. Sackboy Big Adventure is a good game, and it's a good homage to the old, like, Mario 3D world. It was really good when it comes to that. It would make a great co-op game. Problem is, though, is that Phil looked at it and said, no, I'm not playing this. I'd rather play Bug Snacks instead, because I really enjoy Bug Snacks.
So, the way I see it, maybe we'll eventually do that, because it is a co-op action platformer style game.
Oh, so now you want to do it, but I thought you didn't want to do it because it wasn't worth the investment.
That's a possibility. Not sure yet about that. We're looking into it. But there are other things we're looking into as well. But nothing really has honestly jumped out at us yet. We're looking and nothing is like, is this going to be fun to play, but also fun for an audience to watch? It seems like there's some games that would be fun for us to play, but it would not be fun to watch because the games are boring.
What? Phil, if you can make the games entertaining by playing them and having a good time with it, it doesn't really matter what your audience has to say about it. If they could see that you're having fun with the game with your wife, then maybe, just maybe, you can get yourself an audience with that. Problem is, though, is that you want to look at a game at its quote-unquote face value, but you don't understand the full games of its entirety, and yet you're hoping that it'll be fun, though. It's like, why don't you just give it a shot? And if you're not going to have fun, don't do it. There's always off-screen shit that you could do to figure out if a game would be enjoyable or not. Problem is that you don't want to do that because that's a waste of time and effort.
Then there's some things, right, that maybe you guys would be more interested in seeing us do, but we're not interested in doing them. Like we keep telling you guys, we're not interested in that It Takes Two game. We're just not.
Well, then again, Phil, it won Game of the Year in 2021, and it surpassed a lot of people's expectations. The game is good if you have a second person to play with, but the main reason you don't want to play it, though, is because the main story is focused around divorce.
Okay? And I'm just going to say this, because some people have completely the wrong mentality about this. Kat is my wife.
Wait, really? She's your wife? I had no idea. I thought that was your roommate.
For her to come in here and do some nice co-op stuff with us is just a nice added bonus. She wants to add to our experience together.
No, Phil, she's not adding to anyone's experiences. All that she's adding to it is that, hey, you're going to bring out this prop and you're going to use them to make money out of it. It's the same thing with Jasper, the $2,000 cat prop that you got. All of this that you want to call a family, it's just a big prop to you. And Kat especially. When you first introduced her back on the streams back in fucking January, oh yeah, she was hands down going to be a fucking prop for all this.
You know, you guys as an audience and me as a broadcaster or content creator, correct? Kat is not an employee.
I've seen people that actually brought their own wives on for streams and it's entertaining. It's because how the people make it. But the way that we see it, it's not that she's your wife or an employee. It's due to the fact that you just drag her on in and she doesn't want to be a part of it. But yet you're trying to delude yourself into believing that people want Kat on. I want Kat on, but you two look awkward as fuck.
She's not forced to come in here to earn a paycheck and to play something she doesn't like or that we're not going to have fun doing just to pump out video content for you as a product to make money.
So go back to your Dondoko Island videos that you did with your wife. Did she have a good time with it? Was she having fun? No, because what we see from her is that she doesn't want to be there. She's bored. She doesn't want to play this game. She's already beaten it. She wants to move on from it. But you drag her on in and she's doing all the work for you. And you want to sit there going, but we're playing the game, even though she's doing the majority of the work.
That's not the point of her coming in here. Do you understand? And I think some people are very much misunderstanding that. They're saying, well, why do you need to like what you're playing? Just get her butt in there and do co-op and pump out the videos like everyone else on the internet.
No one said this. Only the voices in his head, the abusive ones, are actually coming out by saying this.
You missed the point. I'm not like everyone else on the internet.
Correct. Unlike everyone else who could be considered as popular, entertaining, informative, and actually enjoy the shit that they're doing, you do none of those, and you provide no substance at all, but yet you're calling your substance, or the lack thereof, meaningful and enjoyable and curated content to your audience, deluding yourself into believing that you're more successful than they are.
I'm not forcing myself to do shit to make a paycheck.
Yes, you do. Quit projecting.
The point is the love of gaming, doing things that are meaningful. Things that we're going to enjoy and have a great experience together.
So you looking really bored when playing Like a Dragon or the Yakuza games? Yeah, that's your passion for gaming coming out. Or you just sitting there forcing yourself to play a game that you don't like, but you want to delude yourself into believing that you like it. That's truly a passionate gamer right there.
That you can remember because it wasn't just us pumping out a fucking video to make money.
Phil, isn't that what you do on an everyday fucking basis? You're playing Baldur's Gate 3 for God's sake, and you're not playing anything else. It's just Baldur's Gate 3, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Tekken 8, your React content, and the other React content. You're pumping these videos out for money, and it's not working out. Phil, just go back to the drawing board and figure out what would work and what doesn't work. But you don't want to do that, though. You want to sit there and project that it's everyone else's fault, the reason why you're failing, when it's just staring at you in the face. It's you.
I could have been doing that for years, playing every little viral game, doing every little thing. That's the opposite of the mentality of me making content.
Phil, aren't you playing Pal World, or didn't you play Pal World? That game that was fucking virally, like a viral sensation? You played that. And when you didn't get the amount of money that you got out of it, you dropped that like a fucking rock. Sea of Stars, it was virally popular. It was one of the best indie games that came out last year. Drop that, throw all the other games that you're playing. And guess what? All those games that you're playing, you being a passionate gamer and all, it doesn't show because you're not making that money that you're thinking you're supposed to make. You're basing your own content and you're basing every single game that you play for the sake of money. While you waste money or make some profit back, you're not enjoying the games, and you want to take it out on detractors for saying shit about you, and your audience for not giving you the money that you think you rightfully earned, when really, you earned none of it.
And certainly, it's the opposite of her coming in here to do any kind of content with me.
So the Q&As, those are flops because you did it back to back within a week, and it failed. You did the same thing with Dondoko Island. You tried doing the same thing. It flopped because burnout, it's a thing.
she has no desire to just force herself to come. I mean, there's millions of games we could play right now co-op that we wouldn't be interested in.
Because you're not interested in them, not Kat. If you told all these games that your audience suggested to her, she'll probably be like, huh, that looks fun. That looks fun. And then you come right back onto the podcast and go, nah, we don't find this interesting. She's not interested in that.
We'd be bored within like a couple of hours. And yeah, we could force ourselves to do it, but you're not going to see us happy. You're going to see us kind of annoyed, right? Is that what you want?
Hey, Phil, if you think that you're going to be bored within a few hours, why don't you do, I don't know, like a roulette wheel? Do like this type of thing where you have all the games that people have suggested, you put it on a roulette, you show your screen of the roulette wheel, and you spin it. You play that game for about an hour, maybe 2 hours. And then all of a sudden, it's like, hey, should we continue playing this? And if your audience says, hey, continue playing this game, or don't finish it, move on to something else, then that could work too. But the problem is, though, is that this suggestion would not work out for you. But then you want to look at someone like Proton John, who does that with Fortune Cookie, and it works out in his benefit. But again, not everything's going to work out for you.
Annoyance in a video because we're playing something we don't like?
Huh, that's you every day.
I mean, what's the point of that? We're not going to be in here like happy actors. Oh, every game we play is so cheery and great because we love all games because we're pumping out fake content for you.
Even though, Phil, every single time that your wife is on the fucking screen, you're pretending to be this loving husband that truly cares and that, oh, she's tired, guys. Oh, she's just tired. Oh, baby, don't worry about it. Baby, it's all good. Baby, you're doing so good. And as soon as she fucking leaves, oh yeah, who the fuck am I gonna fucking ban today?
So you'll give us money. We're not doing that. Do you see?
Phil, you do that every day. It doesn't matter if she's in it or not. You do this every fucking game that you play.
We're trying to make real content. So understand, if we're going to make content together, it has to be something we're really interested in.
Phil, you both weren't interested in Dondoko Island, but you hyped it up believing that it's going to help you. It's going to save your marriage, supposedly. It didn't even do that because she upped and left.
All right? We're not interested in half the games that are from the past co-op games that people are all... It Takes Two, not really interested. So,
yeah, you're not interested in that.
sorry. You know, maybe years ago it would have been, but... You know, it's today now.
Yeah, you're using this as an excuse of, oh, back then it would have worked, but not today in the year 2024. It wouldn't have worked today. Even though the majority of co-op games out there, it doesn't matter if they're classic or new, they still hold up for an entertainment value, for a replayability value. But you don't want to look into that. Instead, you're going to cope and make up delusions believing that no one's interested in this, and I'm not interested. I mean, we're not interested in this. You do this all the time.
So we're going to continue to look for stuff to do, and we're going to give you updates on it when we find things. But you have to understand that. And I'm going to say something very honestly now, and if you take offense, I can't help it.
Well, then again, though, Phil, if we say anything, you take offense to it, then sorry, not sorry that you're a pussy little bitch.
If you think you are entitled to have my wife come in here and make co-op content with me, right, and you're upset that she's not just going to come in here and play anything she doesn't like, you're pretty fucked up in the head.
Huh, Phil, that's a lot of projection coming from you, because you forced her to come onto the streams, and it's clear as day she doesn't want to be a part of the streams. She's just sitting there looking bored. You take the controller from her, she's acting like a goddamn child. Like moving her head all around, moving her body, acting like a little brat. And you're doing nothing. You're not entertaining with your wife. You're just staring, looking at the TV, playing the game, going, ha ha, oh, this game is great, ha ha ha, boring, and she's not having it. The problem with all this, though, is that you want to call us fucked up in the head, or everyone else fucked up in the head, that they want your wife on, then that's coming from you, because you wanted your own fucking wife on. So, is this like a cry for help saying that you're a fucked up individual? Oh, maybe not, because you believe you're always right and everyone's wrong.
People on the internet are not just entitled to make the content you want immediately, whether or not they're enjoying themselves.
Sounds a lot like you. Every single piece of content that you make, oh, you want money to be given to you.
That's ridiculous. Some of the comments I've seen on videos, just fucking make content and shut up.
Where are these comments, Phil? Can you show them to us? Or are you just making this up by pulling them out of your ass again? Oh, wait, is that ladle shoved up in there?
Be grateful anyone wants to see your content. Well, yeah, but I want to make content that we like.
which is slim due to the fact that you both really don't have a passion for gaming together. But from what we have heard from you, whenever Kat was playing Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth by herself, she was having more of a time because she had more control. But once you brought her into your stream, she had no control. She was doing exactly what you wanted for her to do. And it wasn't that great.
Kat is not an employee. Do you understand that? She's not getting a paid employee. She's not coming in here earning a paycheck.
No, because all that money that you would have paid her if she was an employee would go straight into Scopely.
You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? You want to know an honest difference? Here's the difference. John Rambo technically was a paid employee.
No, he really wasn't, though. The problem that you're trying to correlate John Rambo into this, John Rambo was the only best friend you ever fucking had. And the only reason why he asked for some money out of it is because he's driving hours to your place and back. So the problem is that he needs to pay for gas, he needs to get money for food, so that way he can actually have something for himself to get something out of it. He's not an unpaid employee. He never fucking was. Someone that was considered as a paid employee would be someone like Howard or Respect the Pact, back when y'all did Project 7. But even then, you fucked them out of money.
Back in the day when I used to do co-op with him, even if we played games we didn't really like and we were suffering through them, it's because we were making money doing it.
Yeah, and you still do the same thing to this day. You're trying to make money out of it, but you're not making as much money as you did back in the day. But the difference, again, going back to the best friend part, you two played games like friends. You treated it like it was like Game Grumps or Runaway Guys, where it was just friends getting together and playing a game. Could it be a good game, a bad game, a frustrating game? Who knows? As long as they were playing the game and having fun with it, then that was the only thing that mattered. But now you're looking back at the past, into the present, saying that, no, he was just an employee of mine. I treated him like an employee. So you treated him like a prop.
He literally was someone who came to my place every week and received pay for what he was doing. He was not my wife.
No, because he was your best friend, and all he asked was just a couple of, like, $100 or so. And that's all that he asked for, really. He wasn't sitting there demanding a fucking paycheck. Oh, every video that we did together, I want royalties. I want 50% of the royalties. He never did that to you. He treated you pretty fucking fairly, even though you were treating him very unfairly. Phil, you want to sit there and be like, oh, she's my wife. No. Anyone that you interact with, they're not anyone special to you. They're just a fucking prop that you can just bring up on a willy-nilly dime and just say, hey, I can make money by bringing them on.
That's a very different experience. Do you understand? So that's why I think people are thinking, we used to do co-op 10 years ago and used to play every horrible game. So why don't you just do that now with your wife? Because
it would be enjoyable, but you don't want to do that because, again, you and your wife together, awkward as fuck.
That's not the point. That's not why we want to do it.
So bringing on somebody to play a horrible game together for a laugh, for an enjoyable experience, that's not the point. Phil, I can bring up your other relationship with fucking Leanna, how you two played games together. Sure, as insufferable as she was at God of Redemption arc and she got the fuck out of there, at least you two played video games together or did this shit, and at least there was interaction. We don't see that with you and your wife. We fucking don't. But instead, you just want to cope and delude yourself into believing that, oh, we're doing this to have a great time. But ignore all the videos in the past. They were just my employees.
It's different. It's a different experience. Do you understand? And I hope that you get that. All right? I really do.
Do you truly get it, Phil? Because I just said a bunch of things with Leanna and John Rambo, Howard, Respect the Pack, people that you've actually interacted with in the past, but yet you're treating them like employees and your wife is different because, oh, she's my wife. Do you truly understand that you can have an enjoyable time, doesn't matter what the fuck you play, as long as there's fucking chemistry?
But some people don't. They just pump out the content. Well, no, we're gonna make it make sense. All right, we're gonna make it so that when we finally get to the point where we're going to do co-op again of something we both want to play, hopefully it's something that we're enjoying, you're enjoying watching us play. Also, hopefully there's some kind of an aspect where we can interact with you guys. Like that Overcooked game, there would be no time we could talk with you guys.
Okay, so for some clarification with Overcooked, He said that he looked at the videos for Overcooked and he didn't like it, called it boring, even though that's a fast-paced type of game where you're supposed to cook random foods, and every level that you go to, you always make more. That would have been more of an enjoyable co-op experience. But yet he wanted to do his research based on videos that he looked up on people playing Overcooked, and he's like, no, it's better with 4 people, but me and my wife, nah, it wouldn't work. I think the only reason why he said that it won't work is because he probably wouldn't even get past the first few levels.
That entire game is 100% must be micromanaged, must be played every moment, focus on the game, the game, the game, the game. That's how it is. It's like this crazy, attention-centric game where you need to every moment be doing something right. If you flub one thing, you fail.
Not really though, Phil. You can flub up once or twice in the game. Sure, it'll affect your star rating with it, but at least you can progress in the story. But he wants to sit there and going, oh no, we can't pay attention to the chat because we'll be focused on the game. Phil, there's a little thing called the overworld, the hub world, where you can go from level to level. You can interact with chat then for like a little bit, then go right back into the game. If your audience truly understands that, then you would have no fucking problems. But again, you're making up excuses to why you don't want to play these games.
Right? So that's really not the kind of game that I feel is going to work. All right? So
even though it wouldn't work out for you because you think way too hard into it.
All right, Ad the Gamer, I've had enough of you. Really, I've had enough of you and your toxic attitude. So if you want to apologize to me later, you can come back. But for now, just leave and don't come back.
So because I didn't know exactly what was said, I had to do a little bit of digging with it. So when investigating, I saw the comments that Ad the Gamer had made. The first one being, why are you talking to the chat like they are children? Just pick a game and play it. Which, Phil tends to do that quite a lot because he likes to take advantage of people who are adults, but they're mentally like children. But later on, he moved on to say, okay, let's move on from it then. And then with that, Phil went toxic, saying, get the fuck out of my chat, don't come back unless you apologize. He always wants an apology, but that apology better come with a $50 bill. Other than that, your apology means nothing. But keep this in mind, if this was a moderator or a regular, he wouldn't say shit. He would just get a slap on the wrist and be like, okay, just don't let it happen again. But since it's someone else, a legacy viewer, or just a viewer in general, he doesn't give a fuck. He just will rule with the iron fist, the iron lean-in manual ban, and just get you the fuck out. Because he doesn't like sit when people talk back to him like this.
So, that's the deal with that. Now, there is a positive update, all right? Since the time when we did our Dondoko Island co-op, one of the problems that we ran into was the audio. And what I mean by that is, basically, I have one pair of neck phones. By the way, this is the new pair of neck phones. I should call this out. I did buy a replacement pair of neck phones. If you remember, these were breaking in January. I had them for about 2.5 years, and they were not charging anymore.
So you already had these neck phones for a while, but you kept saying over and over that the audio is messed up, and you never addressed it until now. I wonder why.
So I bought a new pair, and this is the replacement pair. I've been using them for a couple of weeks now. I've completely forgotten to mention that.
So what Kat was using was the new neck phones, and what you're using was the new neck phones, but you kept saying that you don't have the equipment. So
this is a new pair of hoary neck phones, okay? So
also, they're called a neck set, not neck phones, but I lovingly call them the toilet seat.
When Kat was in here to do that co-op, she was using these neck phones. It was actually really...
Wait, what was that?
So, when...
The ear is back! Oh, god damn it! Where's my alcohol?
Kat was in here to do that co-op, she was using these neck phones. I was actually really enjoying
Oh, Jesus Christ, it's more than once! Oh, God, save me!
them. She was like, wow, they're comfy, they sound pretty good. So she was using them while I didn't have any audio, okay?
But you didn't care about it. You kept saying over and over, says, it's Dondoko Island. I don't care about the audio. I don't need it. But also, I would continue more with that, but the ear twitch!
So, basically, we were looking for a solution, and after having seen that, a fan contacted us and said, I liked your co-op in Dondoko. It's a shame you didn't both have the audio. I'd like to fix that.
I love the fact that he keeps bringing up that a fan donated me this, a fan donated me that, but yet there's no real evidence of the fan donating because he wants to keep it anonymous. It's like, Phil, I don't give a fuck. Just say that you bought 2 of them and move on. Okay, he's getting up out of his seat. Nice.
So unprompted, unasked for.
See what I mean? That says right there, gaming neck set. Doesn't say anything about neck phones.
A fan got us another pair of neck phones. So now when we go to play...
Phil, are you sure that you graduated from school? Because that does not say neck phones.
our co-op, whatever it may be in the future, because we don't know what the next co-op will be, we're each going to have a pair of neck phones.
Oh, great. So you'll both have a pair of neck phones, but not matching hats or vests. Like, my God. Even though as stupid as the hats and the vests would be, now both of you could look like idiots together with toilet seats on your fucking neck.
To wear, which is really cool, okay? So
are you sure that's really cool? A lot of people would say that's really stupid.
There you go. Why not buy an aux splitter? We did buy an aux splitter.
I thought you said you already had that already, Phil. You didn't buy one, you already had one. So now you're saying you bought one?
Just stop talking out of your butt. These people, I swear to God.
Phil, what if these people didn't even know about this shit in advance? What if they didn't know that, hey, you already had one? They're just asking common questions. You could just be like, hey, we already got one. And you just move on. But no, these people are idiots because they say, oh, I already bought one. Fucking morons.
You weren't here for the stream, were you? We had an aux splitter. My wife has earbuds. She put in the earbuds, but they're noise-canceling earbuds. She couldn't hear anything. She's like, well, this doesn't work.
Well, it didn't work because she put both of them in there. I think the reason why she didn't want to hear your fucking ass. But no, an easy solution, remove one of them. It's not hard.
And we don't have another pair of headphones in the house that would work with the aux splitter.
Wait. Yes, you do. Yes, you did. You had those fucking headsets that you put in the closet, but you didn't want to look for them. So again, you're bullshitting here.
Now we do. So now we'll each have a pair of these to wear when we do content moving forward.
And now I have the urge to use the bathroom. I don't know why.
Okay. Pretty cool. So thank you to the fan who donated that. You know who you are. You didn't ask for a shout out. I'm assuming you probably don't want the public attention.
That's another thing too. If a fan donated something to him, they don't want a shout out and they don't want to be called out. That's the only reason why he'll bring up the whole anonymous fan giving him shit, when in reality he bought it himself, but he doesn't want to say anything because, oh yeah, it's the kindness of the fans, and if it breaks, it's the fans' fault. This imaginary one.
Because of trolling. But thank you so much. So now we have an extra pair, and when we do co-op again, and here's the other cool thing. Even though we're not going to be doing co-op all the time.
Yeah, what was the point of this then?
I now have a backup pair of neck phones. So if these break in a year or two, I'll have a backup pair.
Wait. So you didn't even think about your wife and all of this. Instead, you were thinking mostly about yourself by going on and saying like, oh yeah, in case the ones I bought break, oh, I got another pair. Fuck my wife, right? Phil is the kind of person that will create an eternal Mandela effect every single time that he wants to bring up shit that he said. By going on and on about how people take what he says out of context, or he'll just go into shit saying that it never happened, y'all are a bunch of idiots. The whole thing with the whole Elden Ring DLC was a good example of that. Even though he never went into detail about what features were shown in the DLC, and he wanted to make up the excuse that Miyazaki came out within the day and just talked about all these features and what it was going to be new added to the game, he wants to still believe that it's the audience's fault for giving him the negative feedback and the trolls / detractors trying to come at him again. Phil, you need to do more fucking research when it comes to this shit and stop saying that everyone else needs to do more research. Because it's clear as day that the only person that does the research for you, it's someone in your chat. But we're going to move on from that to go talk about his whole co-op streams with his wife. How he wants to like bring her on in and how everyone's suggestions were stupid because it's games that he's not interested in, but he wants to make it all about him and his wife aren't interested in that and she's not interested in that, and that the audience is a bunch of idiots by just saying that, hey, just pump out the content for money, even though he pumps out content for money, or he thinks that he does. But yet wants to go on to say that he has an extra pair of neck phones for his wife, or excuse me, the neck set, because it's not called the neck phones, they're just a gaming neck set, that a fan gave it to him, hoping that him and his wife can play games together and both look like idiots with toilet seats around their neck. It's like, Phil, you take their suggestions as you will with it, but the problem is that you just want to call it a criticism that's unfairly made or a demand, even though what you're doing is demanding your audience to give you suggestions that you think would work. But I am done with that. I'm going to end it off with a Phil prayer. Deliver us from the dents, deliver us from the pay pigs, deliver us from the pignosis. May we never become dented. May we never become a beggar like Darkside Phil. And just, for the love of God, if you've been doing this for a year like I have, you know relatively fast how toxic you can become with that. But I know that I didn't bring it up in the beginning of the video, but thank you so much for a year down the road with me making this detractor content for a year. It's always great to entertain everyone here. But with that said and done, everyone have a good rest of y'all's day, a rest of y'all's night. Keep it really beautiful, people. I'll see you in the next video, and I'll keep on making content to entertain every single one of y'all.